Welcome on this YouTube channel. So this is tutorial number 4 of our series of videos on C programming. Good. So if you are discovering this channel through this video, my name is Paula Eve, a computer science and ICT teacher. So if you are following on this video and that you are really a beginner in C programming, my advice for you is go back and watch the first video, second and third before looking at the fourth video. Very important. So the aim of this tutorial, in fact, or the aim of this video is to talk about keywords, identifiers, variable and data type in C programming. So very important. So remember that this is the notes here and everything is available on the platform. Good. So we are going to start. Good. So remember that this is the previous code we did together. Good. So let me just open here. So I'm going to start with variable. Variable. Good. It's very, very important to understand what is a variable when you are doing programming, because you cannot write a C program without manipulating variables. So what's the variable? So a variable is just a name location. A variable is just a name location used to store values that will be manipulated. Good. So a variable is a name location used to store values that will be manipulated in your program. It's exactly that. Meaning what? In computer science, nothing is in the air. So you know the architecture of a computer. So generally, when we talk about the architecture of the computer, you have your CPU here, you have your input here. Here you have what? You have the output system. Good. So here you have what? You have the memory. Good. So when the user will send something, remember that what the user is sending is passing through the CPU, but from the CPU is going to the memory first. The CPU now will fetch that data or that instruction from the memory. After executing the instruction, it's going to store the result in the memory. Now, generally, this is how your memory is organized, you see. Good. So your memory is having what we call location. So each location, in fact, is used to store what? It used to store value, used to store data. Let me say it like that. Good. And each of these locations can be accessed using an address. Good. Let us say this address is called A, B, C, G. Here is maybe E, here is F, and so on and so forth. Good. It means that for me to access what is found, let me just take a red pen. For me to access what is found here, you see, good, I just need the address of this location. I want the address of this location, C. So note this very well. Good. So now the aim of a variable, in fact, is to reserve space in the memory where we'll be storing the value we are going to manipulate in our program. So that is the aim of variable. Very easy, just a name location. So it is a location in the memory used to store values that will be manipulated in the program. Like when you write a program that you are collecting something from the user, you are collecting, where is it going? You see? Good. Imagine that you are writing a program that collects two numbers from the user, calculate the sum and display the result. So you are seeing that the two numbers you are collecting from the user must be stored somewhere. Now, after doing the sum, the result of that sum must be stored somewhere also. So you are seeing that here we need to manipulate variable to store all those things. Good. Then when you do display here simply means that you are displaying the content of your result. It's all. You are not doing, so display is not as if you are calculating again. No. That is why the notion of variable is very, very important. The next thing to note here is data type. We need to talk about data type. So what is a data type? Very important. Now here we are talking about variable used to store values, or we have variable used to store data that will be manipulated in our program. So the next thing that you need to note here, which is very important, is each type of value or each value we stored in the memory must have a particular type. Like when you are manipulating numbers, it's not the same thing as manipulating characters. So generally when we talk about data type, the definition is very, very easy. Everything is in the notes. So the data type is the kind of value a variable can hold. Full stop. So you don't complicate anything. So you are supposed to be direct and clear in what you are saying. So the variable, a data type, is the kind of value a variable can hold. Good. So I can have a variable here, like here I'm having a variable, let me say called C. So what's the kind of value that it can hold? Meaning what's the kind of value that I can store in this location C? G, what's the kind of value that I can store in a location G? So for me to know the kind of value that I can store here, or if you want to say the type of value, I just need to precise what the data type of the variable itself. When you precise the data type of a variable, from there you know exactly which type of value you can store in that variable. Exactly that. Good. So now we move directly into practical. So these are the basic things you need to know. Before moving to practical, the next thing very important to note here is how to declare a variable. So declaration of variable in C programming language. So declaration of variable in C programming language. So you are seeing that here, it's very important to always understand what you are doing. So now the first question you ask yourself is, what is the meaning of declaration? So in simple words, declaration simply means reserving space in the memory. So you know generally your memory in fact have different things there. So to avoid any confusion, you need to reserve space for each value you'll be manipulating. So each value is stored in its own location. So this to avoid any conflicts, any confusion, good, or the different values. That is why generally all the different programs that exist, when we talk about program, talking about software. Today people are manipulating software, everything is working perfectly. You think that is magic? No, it's simply because everything is organized. So what is declaration? Declaration here simply means what? Reserving space in the memory. Fine. So this is the meaning of declaration. So each time I will be using the word declare or declare a variable, you see, good, I'm indirectly saying that reserve space for this variable, reserve space for this in the memory. So it's exactly that. So good. After knowing all these terms, perfect. You can now move to our program. Now, so what's the structure of declaration? Good. So the structure here is very easy. So when you are declaring, the first thing is you need to give what? The data type of your variable. So here, data type like this. So this is not the actual code, I'm just writing. So you need to give the data type. After data type, you give name of variable. You end with a semicolon. So this is how we declare. So this is mentioned in my notes. So you give the data type, you give the name of the variable. So the next thing, variable. So the next thing I want us to study is what are the different way of giving name of variable. Because don't go and you give something like 1 and you say it's a variable. No, because you know already what's a variable. That's why in my definition I've said a name location, meaning a variable is a name. It's a name, and a name here can be, in fact, it can be a single character. Like you can declare a variable called A, like you can declare a variable called H, you can declare a variable called name. So you see, good. So I'm going to help you like how to declare your variable. Now data type. So the next thing is we need to study the different data type that exist in C program. So if I move to my node, you'll be seeing that here I'm having a table. Good. So this table is presenting you some of the data type you'll be using, you see, each time. Now I'm going to start. So the first type here is for integers. Good. So what are integer? Integer refers to all positive and negative whole numbers, good, including 0. Very nice. So in C programming, integer is represented by int, int, small letters, exactly like this. Good. Now, so to declare, so these are examples where we'll be doing that in C programming. So what's important here is to know the syntax. Good. So I hope you remember what is syntax. Syntax simply refers to the rule or the grammar of a programming language. It's all good. So all programming language has its own rule. And the C programming is telling you that when you are representing the data type of an integer, use the keywords int like that. Good. So if you add s there, the C program or the compiler will not recognize it again. Very important. Now for decimal number, you have float. So this is the structure, or this is the syntax here, float. Now you have here double. So let me explain it, because sometimes students are confused. They see float, they see double, they don't know the difference. In fact, good. Float and double are the same thing. both are used for decimal numbers. The difference between all these, or the difference between all the different data types that you are using here, is at the level of the size reserved in the memory. Good. Now, for float, when you are using a float is reserving how many bytes? 4 bytes in the memory, and you know that 1 byte is equivalent to 8 bits. So 4 bytes here is equivalent to how many bits? 32 bits. Good. And when you know the total number of bits, to know the exact or the range of values that you can store at the level of this variable that you have declared using a float is very easy. You just take 2. So let me go back to the note. Let me just go back to here. Good. So for int, let me start for float. I told you that float is what? 32 bits. Good. So now, to know the total or the range of value you can store when you are using float, the formula is 2 to the power that number of bits, so 2 to the power 32. And if you put this on your calculator, you'll be having something like 4 billion something, or 4.3 billion, something like that. So you are seeing that the number is very, very large. It means that you can store from negative 4 billion to positive 4 billion. And generally in C programming, in fact, you are not going to manipulate very, very large number, or this is sufficient for us. Now, the only difference with double now is that double is represented, double reserve 8 bytes in the memory. 8 bytes is equivalent to 64 bits. Good. So you try to imagine 2 to the power 64. So the number is very, very, very large. And generally, we don't manipulate very large number like this one. Good. And generally, the advantage also of double is at the level of precision. Meaning with double, you can reserve number to a very large number of decimal places, but it's not very interesting for us. Generally, we are going to represent to 2 decimal, 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places. That is why even when you see a code where they are using double, you can change double and you use float. There is no problem. So I'm just explaining this to remove any confusion from your mind, because some students are confused, and when you're already confused like that, you are discouraged to proceed with the chapter. The same thing with integer. So generally you will see in, and in some program you will see something like short in. In some program you will see something like long in. Good. So you need to know that all these things, they are similar. Example, int here is 32 bit, the size reserved. Short in here is 16 bits. Long in here is 64 bits. Good. Meaning that when you are declaring something as an integer, as an int, let me just say int, just int like that, because all these are integer. What varies is just the size we reserve in the memory. So when I'm declaring something as int, it simply means that for that location, I'm reserving 2 to the power, I'm reserving 32 bit, and that 32 bit I'm reserving simply means I can store up to 2 to the power 32, which is about 4 billion. So you are seeing that the number is very large. Generally, you are not using short in, because short in can store up to what? 2 to the power 16. And 2 to the power 16, I think, is something like 64,000 if you calculate and you obtain the real value. So you are seeing that, imagine that someone wants to store something like 90,000. It's not more possible, because you have declared a variable as what? As short in. So this, we consider this as small, so we are not using this one. Good. But long in is very, very large. The range of number here is very large. So that's why generally we don't really use it. We just use in. Good. So understanding things like that is very, very important. So we proceed. The next data type here is char. So char here is to store character. Good. So void here simply means nothing. You see. Good. So I'm going to explain the use of void later. Good. So now the next data type is not present here. Let me just explain it directly in the code here. Is string, and I'll be showing you how to use string, so don't worry. So generally string, in fact, is just like a collection of characters. It's all like, imagine that you want to store a name, something like if. Good. So you are seeing that if is made up of how many characters? Y, V, E, and S. Good. You see. So generally now in C programming, string is not existing. That is why for us to collect something like that from a user, we are going to use the data type word char, and we are going to use something we call arrays. An array is just like a table where each box of that table will store a single character. So you are seeing that I cannot really talk about string without talking about arrays. So that's why I'm always saying that understand the way you are studying. Sometimes people are jumping steps. That's why at the end you're normal understanding. So I will be leaving this one for now. By the time you study array, I will come back now to talk about string. Good. So for now, we are just discussing about the basic data type. So let us move back to our code now. So it's clear. So now here, imagine that I want to declare a variable to store an integer. Good. So here, let us say for integer, the data type is what? You write int. You give space, you give the name of the variable. Let me call that variable n. Good. Very important. So just this instruction is doing what? Let me come back here again. This instruction in n simply means that you have your memory like that, and you have reserved a space called n, and that location is what? Is empty. So that's the meaning of declaration. So this is exactly what this is doing. Good. So understand what you are doing. Now imagine that I move to the next line. I write n equals to maybe 5, then I put semicolon. It simply means that to the location n, store the value 5, because this equals to that you are seeing here simply means affectation. Affectation simply means take the value you have to the right and store it in the variable you have on the left. So because this is the structure, so don't go and write yours 5 equals to n. No, this is not correct. So this is exactly what happens here. Good. So let me move to the next line here. I'm going to say n equals to 5 semicolon. Remember that in C programming, each instruction end with a semicolon. Good. So in the area here we have declared and we have stored a value. Now the next thing we are going to talk about input and output function. And the first output function I want us to discuss is the printf. The printf. Good. So how is the printf working? Good. Because good. Now we are going to talk about output and input function. So for these videos, I'm just going to talk about the output function. Now in the next video, I will talk about the input function. Good. So we have different output and input function, but the output function that we'll be using today is printf. Good. So the use of printf is just to display something on the terminal. Good. Terminal is that black screen that appears when you run your code. So sometimes we call it command line interface. You want, but generally we call it a terminal. Good. So here the structure is what is very clear. So you just write printf. Remember that here this is the syntax of the C programming language, the rule. So if you go and write your own code, you remove this f, it's not more working. You see? Good. So now after printf, you open the braces, you open double quote, and anything in that double quote is the text to be displayed. Don't forget your semicolon. So this is the syntax of the printf. So let us say I want to display something like hello. Good. Control S. Always do your Control S to save the new modification before executing. So you have hello. Good. So the next thing now is how to display, because here you are saying that this printf is displaying what? It's just displaying a simple text. Now imagine that I want to display the content of a variable. So then now there's another notion you need to understand. We call that format specifier. Format specifier. So what's the format specifier? A format specifier just tell the printf the type of data to print. Like I'm telling the printf, are you printing an integer? Are you printing a character? Are you printing this? So we need to tell the printf which type of data he is printing. So it's very important. So yeah, I'm talking about printf, but when we are going to work with scanf also, even there we are still using format specifier, because scanf is an input function used to enter something and store in the memory. And for us to store something in the memory, we need also to precise the type of data we are storing. Good. So format specifier is very important. Now for integer, the format specifier is %g. For float is %f. So it's even very easy. So just from the name of the data type, you can have an idea. It's just that integer is a little bit different. Since people like to cram, meaning integer is not %i. No, it's %d. But float %f, c %c, char %c, string %s. Double is %lf, like saying that long float. Are you getting that? Good. But generally, concerning your GC, you'll be mostly using %g, %f, %c, and %s. So how is it working to display a variable? So let us say I want to display this file. So what's the structure here? The structure is very easy. Like imagine I want to display something like hello 5. Or let me just remove this text here. I want to display something like the number is 5. So I'm going to say the number is good. Now after the number is, at this level here, I'm not going to put 5. No, you see, but what I'm trying to do is I want to display what is inside n. Good. So since what you are trying to display is coming from the memory, you just write your format specifier %z. Meaning that where you are putting the format specifier, you are indicating that okay, what will be displayed at this position is coming from the memory. Good. Like the number is, this is just a text. It's not coming from the memory. That's why we are writing it manually. But yeah, after this is, what I'm expecting here is a number. I'm expecting something coming from the memory. And since what is coming from the memory in this case is an integer, that's why the format specifier is %g. So after doing that, now you go out of the double quote. Good. Out of the double quote, now you write the name of the variable. Good, that you are trying to display. And the variable that I'm trying to display here is what? Is n. Good. Now, generally you'll be seeing that there's this symbol here. This symbol. Good. So this symbol here. Good, but we are not going to use this symbol here, and I will explain why. So put in mind already that we don't use this symbol with a printf. Never, never, and never. So never use this in the printf. Why? I'm going to explain the use of that in the next video when we will be doing input function. So that from there you'll be understanding why it's impossible to use this in printf. Good. So things like that, in fact, at least it'll be making you to be understanding what you are doing each time you're writing a code. So after this, remember that you close the double quote, then you put comma, and you write the name of what you are trying to display. It means that if you have 3 format specifier inside the double quote, it simply means that after closing, you precise 3 variables. Because 3 format specifier inside the double quote simply means you want to display 3 things coming from the memory. So I hope here we are clear. Now the question you ask yourself, because there are some mistakes students are doing, like after writing a format specifier, they don't close the double quote, but they write comma, they write the name of the variable before closing. It's wrong. Why? Because remember that if you take this comma and n and you put inside the double quote, the printf will consider it as a normal text. Like he's going to consider it as a normal text, like the number is, you see, and display it like that. Good. And this I think that when you practice, you can test it, in fact, so that next time you never make that mistake. Programming is not something that is static. No, it's dynamic. Meaning that as you are working, just testing. If you have a particular doubt, you test, so that when you are doing like that, at least you are really learning the base thing concerning the language. So I'm going to do my Control S and save. If I execute here, good, you'll see something like the number is 5. Perfect. Good. Now, so to explain what I was saying, imagine that this double quote, good, I put it right here. See what will happen. So the compiler will consider all these, in fact, as text. If you click on display, see what happens. So you have something like the number is, you have a funny value, then you have that comma and that n. Are you seeing the problem? Good. Now this funny value you're having here is just an address that is displaying like that, so it has nothing to do with what you are trying to do here. Are you seeing why that slash or that variable should not be in the double quote? Good. So I think from here you'll be understanding what you are doing. Good. So I think this is where we are going to end with this video. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask your question in the comment section. Good. And if everything is okay, just write in the comment that sir, it's okay. Good. So that at least I'm knowing that those following these videos, they are really understanding what is happening and they really like the video. Good. So in summary, in this video we have discussed about variable, we have discussed about data type, and we have discussed about how to use a printf function in 2 ways: how to print a normal text and how to print a value from a memory. So it's very clear. So the day you want to display a float, make sure that here you put the %f and you put your value, your variable here. You obtain what you are trying to do. Very important. So thank you. So this is where we are ending for this video. So the next video we are going to discuss on scanf function, like how to collect something from a user. So perfect. See you in the next video. Don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you.